What's going on, silencers? Cass here, and today I've got a little something different for you. This actually comes by request. A couple of the people on my Discord have decided that they want to learn a little more about farming, so I put together a little tutorial. Hopefully, I can keep everything straight. This episode's going to be cut just a little different. Well, it's not really an episode. It's sort of a one-off tutorial. This tutorial is going to be cut a little differently than you are used to, and hopefully quite a bit shorter than normal episodes. But without any further ado, let's jump right into it. So first thing I wanted to focus on, let's get here to the end. So your plot fields are available from the get-go at the beginning of the game. You press your Q menu or get up to your radial menu, go to your buildings, go to your farming, and your fields and orchards are available, like I said, from the very start. Now, placing fields and orchards is about as simple as anything else. If you go into it, you pick one out, you decide where the corner is going to be, and then you can place one down. It works the exact same way for the orchards, but the orchards are remarkably bigger. Then, once you've placed one down, you'll need to grub it up. And for the first little bit, this will be your job. You'll need to do all the work all by yourself. And then you'll get people. And once you have people, you'll be able to put them in a barn, like these. So here I've put the 3 levels of barns. So level 1's without insulation and with insulation. Level 2's without insulation and with insulation. Level 3 without insulation and with insulation. Now, the only difference between these buildings, unlike other buildings where you have tiers like 1, 2, and 3, where it actually adds more crafting stations, barns aren't that way. They just have more capacity for workers. So barn level 1s can hold 0 or can hold up to 4 workers. Barns level 2 can hold up to 6 workers, and barns level 3, the ultimate level of barn, can hold up to 8 workers. Okay, so one barn is capable of taking care of 2 fields at a time, and here's what I mean. When you have fields to be worked, you'll come across a couple of different there's a couple of different levels of ground, basically. You'll have this, which is plowed ground. This, which is, unplowed ground. So you'll have unplowed ground. Then you'll have fertilized ground. Then you'll have fertilized and tilled ground. And then ultimately you'll have fertilized, tilled, and seeded ground. Now let's see, what can I plant? Flax. Well, just, whoops. Oh, I don't have any flax seeds on me. Well, that's totally fine. We can also plant cabbage right here. So these are the 4 levels of ground. You have this unplowed stuff, you have this fertilized stuff, then you have the plowed stuff. So once you've added fertilizer, you hit it with the old hoe again, and then you place down seeds. And this is all you have to do to get crops. It's at it. That's it. That's the end of the tutorial. All right, for anybody who's still here, once your crops start to grow, they will enter several different stages. The first is seeded. The second would be something like this, where they are growthlings, so still in the growing stages. And then the third would be harvested. So things like this rye. Now, I had to plant this rye ahead of time because rye doesn't get planted the same way as everything else. And in order to harvest rye, you need a scythe like this or a sickle like this. Now the scythe, the only benefit to them is the scythe is much more durable. So you give it a good click and it comes down. Works the exact same way with the sickle. Now the sickle has a much shorter reach. So if you want to be able to harvest a lot at a time, you can actually catch about 2 plots worth of crops at the same time with the scythe, whereas the sickle will harvest 1/4 plot at a time. If you're standing right in the middle, you can get both of them, but otherwise you'll harvest 1/4 and you'll have to do it 4 times. So your durability goes down much faster. All right. Now we get into the fun part. I am going to fertilize out this field, get it plowed and planted, and I'll be right back with you. All right, and like I was saying before, once you have it planted, or rather once you have it fertilized, you can run along the ground and just get it all plowed up and ready for seeds. Now, it will cost you 1 fertilizer every time you do this to a crop plot. And we'll talk about orchards in just a minute. In fact, we'll probably talk about it in between harvesting seasons, but it will cost you 1 fertilizer per plot to make this work. So you're going to need a large amount of either animal shit, or you will need a large amount of rot. Now, let me go back to, what the hell did we plant? Cabbage. So I will line these up and be right back with you. All right, so we've got that all set up now. Now you'll notice I left 1 line here empty, and that's because I was going to show you the next part. So when you pick carrots or onions or cabbage out of the ground, you're literally just taking the fruited body out of the ground. So you're taking the carrot, which is a root, or you're taking the cabbage, the head of the cabbage, which is the fruiting body. You're just taking those out of the ground. You can do that by hand, and I will show you that in 2 seasons here. But when you get grains, you're going to have to bring them over to this threshing floor in a barn. Doesn't matter what level barn, all of them have the threshing floor, but threshing is basically where you make more. So in order to make some wheat grain, you go in here, and I do have fast crafting turned on, but normally you have to do this 30 times in order to get the appropriate grain. And you could do this for every single kind of grain that has that output. Now, the main reason for me coming over here is I need flax grain. However, I'll just run through this with you. Okay, flax grain, there we go. Or flax seed, rather. Now, once you have seeds from the harvest, you can actually come over here to this quern, and you can grind it into flour. Flour is very useful for many applications, including some of the best late game food items that sell for the most as well. We will put down a, where the hell is it? There it is, flaxseed. Put down a line of flax really quick. And then I'll go over some of the other functions of the barn. All right, so we got that out of the way. So those are all planted. We don't have to do anything else. Those will grow on their own. They don't require any tending until it comes to harvest. Now, coming over into the barn, you'll notice that there's another workbench here. In this workbench, oh, I don't have any resources. You have the ability to craft a couple of things, and you won't be able to craft these almost anywhere else. Now, animal feed is exactly what it sounds like. This is what you're going to feed your animals. You will need a hefty supply of this if your seasons are any longer than about 3 days. I was playing with 30-day seasons, and I needed something around 3,600 animal feed per year. I think maybe even a little more. Daub, this is an insulating material that we've put on other buildings. If you've watched any of my series, feel free to check out that series if you want to see this stuff in action. But here's what I really wanted to focus on: fertilizer. So we have fertilizer, and we have another recipe for fertilizer. Now, the recipe for fertilizer here requires manure. 2 manure per fertilizer. This is by far the best option. But keep in mind that in order to make one of these fertilizer, you have to have an animal eat a certain amount of animal feed. So you're basically crafting this in order to be able to craft this. That's fine. Fertilizer costs about 5 silver per unit, depending on your skill in diplomacy. But if you can craft it yourself, it will be more profitable in the long run. And I will go over sort of profit margins and the best recipes for all of the outputs. This fertilizer is made out of rot, and rot is what you get when food in your storage or food on the ground spoils. All food does it. Meat, berries, things like that. The best way to get rot is to go out into the world, pick all of the berries you can get your hands on, which there might be a berry patch around here somewhere. I'll just show you really quick. There we go. If you go into inspection mode, which I think by default is left alt, it'll highlight these. In the summer, you can pick them and you get, or we're in the spring, duh. You'll get unripe berries. Oh, and don't worry so much about my carry weight and whatnot. I have a lot of materials so that this is my tutorial world, so I tweaked all of the values to make this just a little easier on me. Anyway, so you can get unripe berries, and these will poison you, but they'll give you a little bit of food. However, you get a lot of them. So if you go through and you just start picking berries, you'll end up with lots and lots and lots and lots and lots and lots of berries. When you're full of berries and you've reached the end of the season, you don't need to eat them or anything like that. The tip that was shared with me, which I did give credit to the tip giver in one of my other videos, but I will try and remember and put their name up on the top of the screen. The tip was that if you go into your barn or something like that, at the very end of a season, drop everything on the ground. These berries will turn into rot, and we'll see that in the next season, of course. But yeah, so that's pretty much the full explanation of the barn. Now, I do want to point out something here. In the quern, it is 5 grain per 5 flour for rye and oats, and it is 5 grain for 10 flour in the for wheat. If we meander our butts down here, we're going to come upon probably one of my favorite buildings in the game, just because I think it looks so badass, the Windmill. Now, this is just your typical windmill. It's actually built in a fairly accurate fashion. I'm actually rather impressed. But if we go into the crafting menu, it is 5 grain for 10 flour for oats and rye, and it's 5 grain for 20 flour for wheat. So this is a far more efficient way of getting what you need. However, it is also the absolute ultimate unlockable in the technology tree. So if we go into technology, we go into farming, and we scroll all the way down to the 10,000 point mark, we are sitting pretty on top of the windmill technology. So this is very, very, very late game. It does require 2 workers and can handle 1 apprentice who has to be a child of 14 years or older, and they can work in here for 4 years before they become a full-fledged adult and are able to take over the miller's jobs. Anyway, moving on over here, the size of your fields is based, actually, it's based on some computer programming that, and I know, no, it's actually based on bit programming. So your first fields can be small, 1 by 1. This will hold one set of seeds. So this would cost 1 fertilizer and then 1 set of seeds. And then in 2 seasons or whatever it is for your chosen crop, it would provide you with 7-ish output of that crop. So you plant cabbage, you get 7 cabbage, blah, blah, blah. Right? Works great. This was just a little proof of concept. So there is a field right down here, but I put this wall around it to show you that you can really snug up on them, make them look really pretty. This right here, this is an orchard plot. Notice how the orchard plot is almost 2 fence lengths long, and the normal one is, or the crop plot is about half of that. So the orchard plot's about 4 times as big. Sorry, I'm shaking the camera around a little bit. Anyway, moving on over here, I wanted to show you what else you could do. So I built the wall around the corner of the crop plots, and this is the maximum size field that you can have. This is 16 by 16 crop plots for a total of 256 crops. So 256 seeds, 256 fertilizer, and an eventual output of about 7 to 8 times 256. No, I didn't do the math. No, I don't feel like doing the math. I'm very, very sorry. I'm very tired as well. But I put all of the different wood types, all of the different fence types up along the perimeter here. So we've got small log fence, large log fence. What is this? Stick fence or something? And wattle fence. No, this is wood fence, wattle fence, stick fence, which I kind of like the wattle fence as far as just the aesthetic. It breaks down a little easier than all the other types, but I digress. I also put all of the different gates to show you that you can build on them. Now, one thing that that I learned kind of the hard way, I really like things to line up. I really do. The problem is that crop plots are always oriented the same way. So it doesn't matter which direction you put them in, they will always line up this way, and I can't put it away because I can't put them down because of those. By the way, you can just use the hammer in destroy mode to get rid of plots. But the put that away. The crop plots and the orchards are always oriented the same way. So if you want them to line up nicely with your houses, put them down first. Even if you just drop one like this so that everything can be lined up off of it and your field ends up being like way the hell over there, that's totally fine. But if you're anything like me, you probably want it to all line up. Now, to that end, if you want something to line up, you kind of have to be able to see it. And of course, you can do the good old-fashioned just test it and keep poking until you get a good lineup, and that'll work. However, if you want to make it easier on yourself, go into your hammer and open up your radial menu and click destroy. It will give you a perfect outline of the unbuildable area around different crop fields and orchards. So nothing to worry about there. What the hell are you doing? I have no idea what that guy is doing over here. I'm sure he just like harvested something or something. Anyway, doesn't really matter. So yeah, crop plots are about the quarter of a size of an orchard plot, and the maximum size is 16 by 16. Now, one of the wonderful parts about things that I never thought about when I first started playing was your crops don't have to be separated. You can plant flax on carrots, on cabbage, on beetroot, on onion, and you can do it all by yourself the way I did, where we plastered all this crap out and, you know, let it go. But here's where the glory of having one of the barns is. When you have a barn and you have workers in it, 3 workers can work on one field at a time. One of them will fertilize, one of them will grub, and one of them, or not grub, one of them will plow, and one of them will plant. So 3 of your workers in any one barn should always be assigned to the farmer position. The 4th worker should be assigned to the barn worker position, and the barn worker can be set to do this crap. They can thresh seeds out for you, and they can craft daub, fertilizer, and flour, and animal feed. So your smallest barn can handle 1 field and a barn worker doing some work. Any size field, doesn't matter, but you can only have 3 people working on a field at a time. The larger barns, like the barn level 2, can actually handle 2 fields. That's not a barn level 2. The barn level 2 can handle 2 fields because they have 6 workers. So you can have 2 whatever size fields you want, and they can run it together. The largest barns can have 2 fields being worked and 2 barn workers doing various crafting projects. This is the most efficient way I've seen to do it. That being said, a field that is 256 by 250, or sorry, 200, a field that is 16 by 16 will be very hard to work in any seasons that are shorter than 3 days, if you're leaving it entirely to your people to do. I am going to sleep through the night right here at this little campfire here, and I will see you in, I think we're already ready for the summer, yeah? Let me out, damn it. Oh, 5 minutes, so like 10 seconds. Yeah, see you in the summer. All right, here we are back in the summer. So, we already talked about the crops. However, some of them should be ready to harvest. Now, our wheat, oats, poppies, beetroots, carrots, flax. Beetroots and carrots, those are not ready to harvest yet. And in fact, with your crops, all of them can be sown in the spring. So it has to be spring, you can plant them. All of these can be planted in the spring, except for rye. Rye has to be planted in the autumn. Most of the crops have a 2-season growth period. However, I'm going to go over them individually now. Wheat can be sown in the spring and autumn and is harvested 2 seasons later. So if it's sown in the spring, will be harvested in the autumn. If it's sown in the autumn, it will be harvested the following summer. Oats can be sown in the spring and harvested in the autumn. Poppies can be sown in the spring and harvested in the autumn. Onions can be sown in the spring and harvested in the summer. Beetroot can be sown in the spring and harvested in the autumn. Cabbage can be sown in the spring and summer and harvested 1 season later in the summer and autumn. Carrots can be sown in the spring and winter and harvested 2 seasons later in the summer and autumn. Flax can be sown in the spring and harvested in the summer. Those are all of the crops that you'll have to harvest that you'll have to be in specific seasons to harvest. And when you pick them, you'll get somewhere between 7 and 8 of each. Now, moving on to, there we go, we're good. let's see the scythe. So we're going to go over here and scythe. Okay, so the scythe can handle 2 plots, moves a little faster. I'm just double checking that I didn't tell you wrong. And the sickle, whoops, can do, yeah, about a plot wide at a time. So the scythe can do 2 half plots, like 4 quarter plots, basically, at a time, and the sickle does 2. So that is the difference between them. Now, this should be harvestable as well. Yep, so we'll harvest this up really quick. Not that it is super important. Okay, there we go. Great. Okay, well, that pretty much sums up the crops. I'll see you next season, of course, to show you the harvesting of all of them and what we can do with them, and then we'll talk a little bit more about profit margins. Now, I put these torches as a test to see how close we could get things to them. This is as close as these torches would go, and then I got one of these lanterns as well, and I attempted to put it closer. However, the lanterns seem to have a hitbox that goes all the way out to this pole, so they don't actually hang over the fields, which is a little bit of a shame, but it's okay. Also, this is a purely decorative function, the scarecrow. It doesn't actually scare off birds, and birds don't actually affect your crops. However, for role-playing purposes, put a couple of scarecrows up. Scare the living shit out of the crows. Come on, think about it. Okay, next is orchards. So, we've already looked at one orchard plot that is 4 times the size of a normal plot, and the maximum size that you can go to is 8 by 8, so a grand total of 64 orchard things. Anyway, there are 5 crops that we can plant in the orchards. We have hops, we have apples, we have pears, we have plums, and we have cherries. And these trees take 5 seasons to mature. So 5 seasons to grow up to the point where they start producing, and 13 seasons total, so 5 seasons plus an additional 8, in order to reach maximum maturity and output. So the fruit trees, the hops are a little funny. They give you kind of a variable amount, which is just a little weird to me, but the fruit trees give you, let's see, apples, plums, and cherries give you approximately 20 for the first 8 seasons of harvest, and then they can give up to 30 and 40 respectively when you get them to full maturity, so that 13 season limit. And then, as far as I know, they don't expire, like they don't go away. You don't have to chop them down. You can, but you shouldn't because they're expensive. Hops, on the other hand, hops are actually harvestable, I believe, every season after they hit 5 seasons, but I could be wrong on that. Hops actually weren't in the game when I first kind of worked through all of the farming, so this is actually kind of new to me. Check out my series on Medieval Dynasty, which we're in season 2 right now, and we'll actually explore this together because beer, duh. Okay, anyway, so let's talk some more logistics. Some of the stuff that might be boring as hell to you, but I did go through and crunch all the numbers. Most of the numbers. Okay, I got a little tired, so I kind of stopped at a lot of the numbers. So first, we have beetroots. Where the frick are the beetroots? Beetroots. So beetroots cost about 12 silver a piece if you have a low diplomacy skill. And you harvest about 7. So at the end of the day, if you buy the seeds for beetroot, oh, by the way, I should probably say, once you have bought something like a carrot seed or something, every time you harvest them, you actually get seeds back. So you'll see that next season when we just go over kind of the harvesting, but you'll get seeds back. For the grains, you have to thresh them and then you get seeds. For the other things like the cabbage, the vegetables basically, you will get back a certain number of seeds, at least one, which is enough to, flesh out an entire field like this in a year or two. So you will have that ability. You won't have to pay for them every time. But if you do want to pay for them, your first beetroot seed is going to cost you about 12 coins. And your profit at the end of that with no skill is actually going to be a deficit of 6.5 coins. So you're going to be out 6.5 coins, even if you sold everything in this plot right away. You would still lose 6.5 coins. With cabbage, you would still lose 6.5 coins. With carrots, you would lose 5.5 coins. With poppies, on the other hand, you would actually make a coin. With onions, which we've already picked, with onions, you would lose 5.5 coins. With flax, where the hell is it? It's over here. We already harvested it. With the flax, you would gain 20 coins. With the oats, you would... Where the hell are the oats now? I planted oats, yeah? Okay. With the oats, you would gain 7.5. With the wheat, you would gain 20. Yes. With the wheat, you would gain 20. And then with the rye, which was, here. With the rye, you will gain 7.5. So if you want to make money early game, wheat and flax are your best friends. Wheat and flax. The seeds cost just about the same. Actually, they do cost the same. They both start at 10 coins apiece. And then once you have fertilized and gotten them planted and started that harvesting process, even if you pay for the fertilizer, you're still going to make a little bit of money off of it. However, if you don't pay for the fertilizer and you've got your own animals giving you a shit ton of fertilizer, pardon the pun, you'll actually make 25 per plot. Now that's per plot. That's every single plot. So if you have 256, yeah, you do the math. You want to lose a ton of money, you plant a whole field of cabbage. You want to save a bunch of money or make a bunch of money, whole field of wheat, whole field of flax. Now, that's with a low skill in diplomacy. If you have a high skill in diplomacy, everything is everything in the crops, from the grains to the vegetables, all of these are profitable. They're all profitable by about at least 0.2 coins. A lot of the vegetables still aren't worth just selling raw, but we'll go over that in a minute. Now, the orchard trees are actually extremely expensive, and for every one that you plant, you'll get somewhere between 15 and 20 fruit from it, whatever that output is. And that will leave you every apple tree you plant, which also doesn't require fertilizer. The orchard doesn't require any fertilizer. So every apple tree you plant is actually going to be a deficit of 209 per plot. You're going to lose money if you were to just sell the apples after they grew up. For every pear plant, you're going to lose 182.5 coins. For the plum plants, you're going to lose 193. For the cherry plants, you're going to lose 135. And for the hop plants, you're going to lose approximately 330 per plot. That seems like a really bad idea. However, considering that these have no maintenance costs afterwards, it'll catch up with itself, but it'll take about 10 to 15 years depending on how many you build up. And they all have to be more or less synchronized with their harvesting times if you want to make the maximum profit. So it's best to save up a shit ton of money and plant all of your orchard at the same time. That way, you're working with good cashy money all at the same time. Now, let's see what kind of time frame we're working on that I can sleep through the night. Whoops, no, go here. 5 hours and 8 minutes. Okay, so we're good there. Then I will talk to you just a little bit about the best recipes to make the most profit out of each product. So with beetroots, cabbages, and carrots. So when you plant beetroots, cabbages, and carrots, so these three, the best recipe to put them in is actually vegetable soup. The vegetable soup sells between 50 and 80 coins a piece. And if you want to make a lot of money, plant these three in equal amounts to make lots of vegetable soup. Between, like I said, 50 coins for having no skill, 80 coins for being maxed out in your sales skill. For poppies, poppies are only featured in one recipe in the entire game, and at this time, and that is poppy seed pie. Poppy seed pie sells for 115 to 184 coins, and making it one of the best things to sell in late game. However, it is late game because that technology is actually locked behind the tavern. Where the hell is it? Poppy seed pie, right here. It sells for, it says I'm going to be able to sell it for 230 coins. So that's based on my skill, I guess? That doesn't seem right. Huh. I wonder if they changed the numbers. Anyway, it's also worth 90 food, which makes it really nice to feed to your people too. The onions have the best value when used in meat tarts. So if we go back into our technology, go here, we have meat tart. So meat tart takes 2 onions, some meat and eggs, and some flour, and you end up with something that will sell somewhere between 90 and 144. And it's apparent. Oh, this is the purchase price. This is how much I'd have to pay for it. So that would be 180 coins for me, but I could sell it up to 144 coins because my skill is maxed out. The flax doesn't have a crafting recipe that it's super useful in. And before anybody jumps down in the comments and goes, hey, wait a second, flax is one of the most valuable things in the game. It is. You're absolutely right. However, going in here, flax is worth not a lot. 10 coins for 32, so that would be 320 coins right here, right? But if you thresh it, then the seeds, which you'll get 32 out of this, the seeds sell for the same price. So you'll still get the 320, but you'll also end up with these flax stalks, which can be spun into linen thread in the sewing hut and is much more valuable. Even just selling raw thread is more valuable. I think I might have a little bit of thread on me, actually. Linen thread. Yeah, the linen thread, it takes 10 flax stalks, so 50. Oh yeah, so the linen thread is actually balanced, so it's 10 stalks for 1 linen thread, which makes the value exactly the same, but easier to carry. And then the linen fabric is several linen thread, and it's not worth just selling the linen fabric. That's when you want to get into clothes and stuff, which, by the way, there will be another tutorial coming on how to make a ton of money in the crafting stuff. However, that one is probably going to come out a little later because I'm going to go to my main world that we're playing on for that information. Anyway, oats are best. Oats, wheat, and rye. So wheat, oat, and the rye over here that we harvested, those are best crafted into multigrain bread, which sells for, oops, go down here, tavern, Multigrain bread was in this kitchen. Multigrain bread. So multigrain bread sells for somewhere between 85 and 136 coins and is actually fairly cheap to make. So if you can actually afford to do it, it gives a lot of food and it's fairly lucrative as well. But that pretty much covers all of these. Now, as far as these orchard products go, they are much more lucrative than the vegetables and grains. So apples, right here, apples are most profitable in apple juice, selling between 65 and 104 coins. Pears are best in pear tarts, selling for 95 to 152 coins. Plums are best in plum tarts, selling for 100 to 150 coins. Cherries are best in cherry pie for 120 to 192 coins. And then hops are best in wheat beer, selling for 130 to 208 coins per product. So hops are kind of the way to go if you want to make a ton of money, but you are going to require some grains and other things in order to make that happen. Now, that pretty much covers everything, except one thing I did want to cover with you. When you go to place down plots, if you do something like this, it will delete all of the big stuff, all of the rocks, everything. So you don't have to worry about it being blocked by certain things. However, just like anything else, it is blocked by tree stumps. And it is also blocked by any rock nodes or stone nodes that say, when you hover over them, it says, need a pickaxe to harvest. If it says that, you won't be able to place down a crop plot on top of it. But you shouldn't have to worry about that too much. There are plenty of places to set up on the map where you don't have to worry about any rocks like that. Now, I said that a 16 by 16 plot is a little on the big side. For like a 3-day season, if you want to get the most out of your plots, you'll want to do 4 by 16. 4 by 16 seems to be a good crop or a good plot size for 3-day seasons, especially if you have the barn level 2 or 3, because then you have people working both of the fields at the same time. There's something else I wanted to say. What was it? Oh, yes. I do remember the one last thing I wanted to say before we slept through the night. These fields are in the perfect position. And what I mean by that is they have to be close to the barns. The barns, if you are too far away from a barn with a field or an orchard, you'll see in the status right here, it'll have a little barn symbol. And that barn symbol will be bright red and let you know, hey, shit's wrong. Something's not right. And basically what it means is whenever you place down one of these barns, it kind of creates a work area. An area where all of the workers are going to run to first and they radiate out. So if you have a crop plot or crop line right here, they'll come out and work that one first completely. They'll grub it up, they'll fertilize it, they'll seed it, and then they'll move on to a crop line here or a field here. So if you want the most out of your, oh, look, those berries that we had, they rotted. Good. Sweet. If you want the most out of your barns, place down one of your fields at the appropriate size, set down the barn, and then place the other field right next to it so that it is right up on the barn. I'm not really all that great at tutorials, but anyway, I digress. I will see you in the fall. Autumn. All right, here we are in the fall. Everything is gorgeous. Let's see. I don't think These are quite old. And oh, hello. So each one of these hop plants gives you... what was it? Hops, 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 hops. 9 hops isn't bad. Going into our technology, going here, all the way down to the tavern, we can look at wheat beer. So wheat beer requires 10 hops. So not even enough for a single beer. However, if we had an entire field of that, we could be looking at a nice, 500, no, 6, yeah, 586, 576, 586. Anyway, but all of this should be done. So grains need to be scythed, and vegetables can be hand-picked. And there we go. So we got 24 wheat out of that. The poppies also need to be scythed, by the way. And with poppies, we got 55. Then we can plant these. By the way, you can use the trick that I used in, what was it, episode 10? Where you just hold down E and run along and your character will just do what he needs to do. But yeah, so once you have everything harvested, it's just a simple matter of putting down more fertilizer and going from there. You can fertilize right over this stuff. The stubble is what it's called. And then when you plow it, it does this. Now, so we've talked about us doing everything, right? But how do we automate this process? So automating is simple. Once you have people in a barn, and you don't have to put the barn necessarily right next to a field, as long as it's close enough that you don't get that red symbol next to one of the fields, you'll be fine. So going into our management tab, so you press tab to come to inventory or to open this menu. We were in management last, so it's here. I have this field labeled as tutorial field. So if you go into a field, you'll see all these different fruit types. So you've got wheat, rye, what is that? Flax, oats, blah, 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 so on and so forth. And you can see what's planted or what's planned for. So planted is the top, 2, 4, 4, 4, 4. The planned is the bottom. So if we go in, you see we have 16 by 16, whatever. If we click into the selected schedule, which is the person with the little wheat thing, we can actually see what crops are planned for. Now, I did not do this. I didn't come in and plan for all these crops. However, the game is very smart. If you go through and you plant crops, it will automate this and put these in their place. So if you have somebody working in the barn closest to the tutorial field, they will come out and in whatever season is correct, they will grub up, fertilize, plow, plant, and then move on. And they will do that for every single crop type that you have. However, I know personally, I don't like to do all that work. So you can simply go into this select plant type. You grab something like flax, you hit F, and then you can just drag and drop. And then you hit C and you grab something else. And you can do this for absolutely everything. And you can use this for crop rotations as well. There's no real benefit to crop rotations other than you can, make a little more money. It doesn't like increase the fertility or anything like that. And leaving a field fallow doesn't actually help either. It occurs to me, not a lot of people might know that word. Fallow means to let a farm or garden rest. Anyway, I think that's everything. I hope I covered everything. I really hope I covered everything. So your most profitable crops are going to be flax and wheat at the beginning. Once you have maxed out your selling skill, you aren't going to want to sell raw products anyway, because the profit margin on raw products such as raw cabbage, carrots, onions, hops, that kind of stuff is paltry in comparison to what you can get out of the crafted products. But we'll talk a little bit more about crafted products in the next tutorial. And like I said, that's probably going to be a little ways away because I'm going to do it in my main village. And if I did it right now in my main village, I would spoil like 3 or 4 episodes for my normal viewers. So if you did enjoy the content, don't forget to like, subscribe, comment, all those fun things. Join me over on Discord, where we have tons of fun discussions and whatnot. It's a safe space where everybody can be who they want to be within reason, as long as you're not being a jackass to other people. We had that happen recently, so we nipped that in the bud. Anyway, thank you very much to my patrons whose continued support allows me to keep doing things like this. You'll see your names in the credits at the end, but I won't keep you any longer. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.